Mr. Smith, I know you're awfully busy and I won't take up much of your time, but I have something I'd like to show you.
Okay.
This tube fitting may look just like any other fitting you've ever seen. The only thing is that in assembly, it's only necessary to slip the tube in tight against the shoulder of the fitting, pull it up a turn and a quarter, and the job's all done. That's all there is to it. No special tools are required. Now, the concept of the Swagelok fitting is that we have found a way to keep all the action of the fitting moving along the tubing axially instead of going around in a rotary motion. This may not seem like an important feature, but wait until you see what happens when I tighten the fitting. I'll mark the nut at the 6 o'clock position so that when I pull it up a turn and a quarter, the mark will end up at 9 o'clock. Pardon me, Mr. Smith. Do you have a paper clip I could borrow?
Certainly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The reason why I wanted the paper clip is so that you could keep your eyes on the tubing as I'm tightening the fitting. Well, now you can see that as I'm tightening the fitting, the paper clip stands perfectly still. In other words, there is absolutely no torque being transmitted from the fitting to the tubing, so that when your lines are hooked up, you have no initial strain on the tubing to leave it in a weakened condition or subject to an early fatigue failure. Now we're at the 9 o'clock position. As I take this fitting apart, you can see that I have to actually work the tubing to get it out of the fitting. You can see how the tubing is enlarged ahead of the ferrules. If I were to mic the tubing in back of the ferrules, I would get about 375. Ahead of the ferrules, the tubing will mic up to about 382, which is the ID of the Swagelok fitting. Then, as I put the fitting back together, you can see that it slides right back into position. In fact, we have built a very nice valve seat into the Swagelok fitting with precision machinery in our plants, so that when you put the fitting back together, it's just like closing a valve. As I mentioned before, the concept of the fitting is that we have found a way to keep the action of the fitting moving along the tubing axially instead of going around in a rotary motion. This means that when the valve is closed, it's closed with a perfectly straight action. There is no rotary motion to cause galling or damage to the valve seat. If I want this valve closed a little tighter, all I have to do is to tighten the nut a little more. You'll notice that it returns to about the 7 o'clock position. This is due to the elasticity of the metal. Now, to retighten, just return to the original 9 o'clock position. This fitting will now hold pressures high enough to burst the tubing and will work on vacuum systems. The beauty of this fitting is that you can use it over and over again, and each time you put it back together, it will achieve the same level of performance. I've been doing a lot of talking, and you really must see for yourself how this fitting works. Okay. As I said, all you have to do is slip the tube in tight against the shoulder of the fitting, pull it up a turn and a quarter, and the job's all done. I'll mark the nut at the 6 o'clock position. After 1 1/4 turns, you'll be at 9 o'clock position.
Okay.
Now, as you tighten this fitting, you can see that the tubing does not rotate. Absolutely no torque is transmitted to the tubing. You or anyone else can check for sufficient pull-up on initial assembly by using this precision gauge. If the nut has been pulled up a turn and a quarter, the gauge will not enter. It's a simple, easy way to verify an important installation procedure. More importantly, every person in your facility can use this hardened and ground gauge to help check for proper assembly. Safe, reliable connections are assured. Swagelok tube fittings have historically established the benchmark for fitting reliability, ease of installation, and performance. No one else machines fitting components to the same exacting tolerances. These fittings are available in a wide variety of materials, and we would enjoy working on your applications with you.
Okay. Thank you.